The shop smelled like gardenias and eucalyptus that Friday morning. We were prepping floral arrangements for a high-end waterfront wedding, and the team was running around, making sure every orchid stem was perfectly trimmed and placed. My boutique, Petal and Thorn, was humming with energy. Classic jazz played softly from the corner speaker, and Mrs. Langford, one of our loyal clients, was chatting with me about centerpiece options for her daughter's bridal shower. That's when the text came in. "I'm leaving you, Rachel. Don't make a scene. I'm moving to Tampa with Alyssa. Already cleaned out our joint account. Good luck." My fingers froze above a bouquet of ivory ranunculus. I read the message twice, then once more, just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. But no, it was real. Derek had actually ended our 11-year marriage by text. Not a call, not a conversation, a text message. I didn't drop the flowers, my hands didn't shake, my voice didn't crack. Instead, I turned to Mrs. Langford and handed her a fresh sample of lavender. "This one might suit your daughter's theme better," I said, smiling, as if the life I had carefully built wasn't unraveling quietly in the background. Only a slight tightening around my eyes betrayed me. As soon as she left, I walked to the back office, locked the door, and sat at my desk. I stared at the message one more time. So that was it. A marriage reduced to 23 words and a passive-aggressive, "Good luck." He even threw in a smug tone for flavor, classy. I took a deep breath, unlocked my filing cabinet, and pulled out the folder labeled Contingency Plan. Because unlike Derek, I'd seen the cracks forming months ago. The late nights at the office that didn't match his calendar, the extra showers when he came home, the new gym membership, the bottle of cologne he hadn't used since our honeymoon. Oh, and then there was Alyssa, the 22-year-old receptionist with perfect teeth and a hollow laugh I'd met at Derek's office Christmas party. She laughed too hard at his jokes, touched his arm a little too long, wore skirts a little too short for professional settings. 3 months ago, I found a receipt for dinner for two at a restaurant we'd never been to together. The same night he'd claimed to be stuck working late on a zoning appeal. That night, I opened a new account at a different bank. 2 days later, I transferred my personal savings, everything I had earned from the shop over the last 5 years, into that account. I left just enough in the joint account to avoid raising suspicion, about 2 months of typical deposits and some buffer cash. He thought he drained me today. In reality, he just skimmed the surface. I took a moment to reread the message one last time, then opened my email. To Naomi Tran. Subject, go time. Message, he made his move. I'm ready to file. Naomi responded within 5 minutes. Understood. The divorce papers are finalized. Do you want him served in Tampa? Let him have his little vacation, I replied. We'll let the sunshine wear off first. I stood and walked back out into the shop, helping my team wrap up the final arrangements. We had a wedding to deliver. Life didn't stop for betrayal. Not mine, anyway. Around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Don't bother begging. Alyssa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later. Send for his things? As if this were some business relocation. He had always been theatrical. Even in ending things, he wanted to be the tragic hero. Alyssa, the barely legal intern he thought was his second chance at youth. I bet she believed she'd found her mature prince charming. I bet she didn't know he snored like a freight train or got passive-aggressive when the dishwasher wasn't loaded his way. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop. Case/Derek Morgan. I started collecting evidence, screenshots, receipts, notes from the past year. Because this wasn't just heartbreak. This was theft. This was strategy. And I would play the long game better than he ever imagined. At 6 p.m., as I was locking up the shop, one more message came through. You'll be fine. You've got your little flower thing. Alyssa and I are starting fresh. Don't get bitter. Get a new hobby. And my little flower thing? The boutique I had built from scratch with zero investment from him. The shop that made more last year than his entire real estate commissions. The business that had funded our home renovations, our vacations, our entire lifestyle, while he pretended to be the provider. I smiled. He'd underestimated me. Again. I poured a glass of wine when I got home. Pinot Noir I had been saving for our 12th anniversary. which I now happily rebranded as a liberation date. Then I called the credit card company. "Yes, I'd like to report fraudulent charges." The woman on the other end asked for details. 2 first-class tickets to Tampa, 1 luxury hotel booking at the Sandkey Grand, a $600 dinner cruise, all charged on our joint account by my soon-to-be ex-husband and his 22-year-old assistant. There was a pause. Then the woman's voice, cool but with the faintest hint of delight. "Yes, ma'am. I'll cancel the charges immediately and remove him as an authorized user. Do you have documentation?" "Plenty. I'll forward the screenshots." She chuckled softly. "You're not the first." When the call ended, I pulled out the wedding album. I flipped through the pages, not with tears, but with strategy. This wasn't nostalgia. This was a timeline. This was a record. The man in those photos didn't exist anymore. He had been replaced by a caricature. Tight polos, forced slang, a paunch he tried to disguise with bad posture and worse cologne. I opened my file cabinet and organized every tax record, LLC certification, and solo account statement. I reviewed the deed to my house, in my name only, inherited from my Aunt Jean, despite Derek's endless, "let's just simplify things," pleas to add him to it. I took a photo of the document and added it to the file. He'd called this place ours. It never was. And tomorrow, Derek Morgan would wake up thinking he'd won. But all he did was trigger the plan I'd been crafting quietly, patiently, relentlessly. I opened my laptop again, one final act before bed. I changed the Wi-Fi password, just because I could. Then I muted my phone, curled up in bed, and whispered, "Good luck, Derek." The morning after Derek's text should have felt like waking up from a bad dream. But I didn't feel foggy or heartbroken. I felt sharp, crisp, like winter air on bare skin. My phone, though, that was a different story. It had blown up overnight. 23 missed calls, all from Derek. 12 text messages, escalating from smug to angry to flat out unhinged. "What the hell did you do? The airline says our tickets are canceled. The hotel says the reservation was flagged and voided. Did you freeze the card? Answer me, Rachel. Don't be petty." I didn't reply. I placed the phone face down on the kitchen table and poured myself a coffee. French press, extra strong. I drank it black, just the way Derek used to hate. "Too bitter," he always said. So fitting. I took a long sip, leaned back in my chair, and exhaled slowly. Today was going to be a good day, a busy one. It was Friday, which meant our boutique would be swarming with last-minute brides, anniversary husbands, and Charleston socialites needing weekend blooms. At 9:15 sharp, I unlocked the door to Petal and Thorn and greeted the team with a smile. "Morning, ladies. Let's sell out today." By noon, we were halfway there. That's when the phone rang again. I glanced at the caller ID and sighed. Linda Morgan, Derek's mother. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, switching to Bluetooth and setting the call to speaker while I trimmed a batch of white peonies. "Rachel," she began, voice tight with hesitation. "I heard from Derek. He's very upset. He said you canceled their trip and locked him out of the account. He says you're being vindictive." I gave a short laugh, more amused than angry. Did he mention that he emptied our joint account without notice and used it to take a vacation with a 22-year-old assistant? There was a pause. I could almost hear her swallow. "Well, he said things weren't working between you two, that he needed a fresh start." "Linda," I said calmly, "I'm not going to get into a he said, she said, but I have receipts, literally. Derek's text messages, screenshots, account statements, hotel bookings on our shared card." Silence again. Then finally, a sigh. "I just want you both to be civil." I'm being very civil. I haven't replied to a single one of his childish messages. But I do have a lawyer, and from this point forward, I'd prefer any future communication go through her. Click. That was the end of that call. Later that evening, I met with Naomi, my attorney, at her office. She greeted me with a warm smile and a tall stack of printed documents. "Rachel, you're 10 steps ahead of most of my clients already." "Years of being married to a man like Derek will teach you to keep records," I replied, settling into the leather chair across from her. We reviewed everything. The LLC filing for Petal and Thorn, dated 6 months before our wedding. The deed to my home. Tax records showing completely separate finances. Screenshots of Derek's messages admitting to using joint funds for his romantic getaway. He's going to try to argue the boutique is a marital asset, Naomi said. Let him try, I replied. I have every invoice and tax document to prove otherwise. Then we go on a fence, Naomi said. I'll file for emergency financial protection. We'll request asset freezes and file a motion to retrieve misappropriated funds. The court date will be expedited. Good. I want him to feel the weight of this before the week is out. Naomi paused. Do you want to serve him now? Or wait? I thought about it for a moment. Imagined Derek poolside in Tampa, sipping a mojito he paid for with my money. Let him enjoy the sunshine a little longer, I said. He'll need the vitamin D where he's going. That night, after closing up the shop, I sat down at home with my laptop. I logged into Petal & Thorn's Instagram and posted a photo of our latest arrangement. Delicate lisianthus nestled among peach roses, a soft pink background with the caption, "When someone thinks they've taken everything from you, but they have no idea what you've really built." Within an hour, the post had over 700 likes. A few familiar names commented, "Preach. You are a queen. Don't let anyone dull your shine." Charleston was a small town in many ways. Word spread quickly. Clients knew, neighbors knew, and they were quietly taking sides. The next day, a reporter from Low Country Women in Business reached out to schedule an interview. "We'd love to feature your story, your brand, your strength." I agreed. Let Derek have the gossip. I'd take the narrative. Saturday morning, the boutique buzzed like a hive. My assistant manager, Leah, pulled me aside while unpacking a new shipment of imported orchids. "Hey, Rachel, just a heads up. Someone from Derek's office stopped by earlier, asking if he'd left anything here." I arched an eyebrow. "He's never had anything here but opinions." Leah laughed nervously. She looked uncomfortable, younger, maybe the receptionist? Alyssa. She was already snooping. Maybe she thought he had some secret stash of luxury assets I was hiding. Poor thing. She'd learn soon enough. That evening, I received a final message from Derek. "FYI, my parents are furious. Thanks for dragging them into this. Also, don't touch my golf clubs." I laughed out loud. Not the angry, bitter kind, the free kind, the kind that said you're not even on my radar anymore. Still, I took a photo of the text, added it to the case file. Evidence, tone, timeline, everything mattered now. Then I walked to my sunroom, poured a glass of wine, and opened a folder labeled Expansion Plan, Spring Launch. Because while Derek was panicking over canceled flights and his TikTok girlfriend, I was preparing to open a second location. On Sunday afternoon, I got a call from Barbara, one of Derek's former coworkers, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "I know this is awkward," she said, "but I thought you should know. Derek's already talking about suing for half your shop." "Let him," I said, not even flinching. I'd love to watch him explain to a judge how his emotional support led to my shop's success while he was out dating his intern. Barbara chuckled. "That's the Rachel I remember." Oh, and Melissa posted a pic at the hotel. Someone commented love paid vacations, and she replied with a money emoji. "Perfect," I said. "Public evidence. Thanks, Barbara." That night, I checked our order system. Online orders had doubled. Customers were leaving little notes, supporting women who know their worth. Let him cry into his canceled plane tickets. The community had spoken, and I hadn't even begun. Monday arrived with the kind of southern humidity that made your clothes cling before you even stepped outside. I dressed in my sharpest navy sheath dress, low heels, and a single string of pearls. Understated, calm, unshakable. The version of me Derek thought he could bulldoze. Naomi met me on the courthouse steps. She wore a sleek gray suit and carried a black leather briefcase stuffed with receipts, screenshots, LLC filings, and one single, stunning affidavit from our accountant, confirming our business finances had been fully separate since day one. "You ready for this?" she asked, smoothing her jacket. I nodded once. "He's not." Inside, the courtroom was colder than expected. Derek arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a light blue sport coat, 2 sizes too small, and a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. Melissa wasn't with him. He looked different, puffy, like stress had started collecting under his skin. When the judge entered, everyone stood. And then, finally, it began. Naomi rose with that quiet, terrifying grace only a seasoned lawyer can master. Your Honor, we are here to request an emergency freeze on all joint financial assets due to the petitioner's deliberate misuse of funds, as evidenced in the following communications. She handed over the first exhibit, Derek's now infamous text message. Already cleaned out our joint account. Good luck. The judge read it aloud in full silence. Mr. Morgan, the judge said, peering over his glasses, can you confirm this message came from you? Derek shrugged. Yeah, but it was just, I was trying to make a clean break. By committing financial fraud? He shifted in his seat. It's not fraud. It's our money. Naomi stood again. Correction. Was their money. Mr. Morgan transferred joint funds into personal use, flights, hotels, luxury expenses for a third party. Meanwhile, my client had already documented the financial separation and filed her LLC independently before the marriage. All boutique earnings were routed through an entirely separate entity. The judge leaned back, scanning the folder Naomi had handed over. Do you have documentation of this? Naomi didn't flinch. We have everything. Then came the big moment. Naomi submitted a printed screenshot of Melissa's Instagram post at the Sand Key Grand Hotel. Hashtag, #workperks, #weekend escape, #myperson. Let's not forget, Naomi said coolly, Mr. Morgan's affair with his assistant is not just unethical. It reflects on his character. He's shown poor judgment and financial recklessness. Derek's lawyer tried to object, citing emotional distress and intent to reconcile, but the judge silenced him with a glance. Mr. Morgan, the judge said slowly, based on the evidence, I'm approving a full freeze on all remaining joint accounts. You are ordered to return the funds you removed within 5 business days. But the money's gone, Derek blurted out. Then you'd better figure out how to get it back, the judge replied, not even blinking. This court does not tolerate theft masked as divorce strategy. When the hearing adjourned, Derek tried to catch my eye, but I walked out without looking back, heels clicking sharply against the marble like a gavel. Back at the boutique, Leah was waiting with updates. Melissa's social media is exploding, she whispered. She's posted, deleted, reposted 3 times. Someone commented, still worth it? Under her beach photo. She blocked them. I chuckled. Guilt is loud. Sales had surged again. Another flood of online orders. Dozens of local women had left notes in the comment section. You're handling this like a queen. We've all been there and we're cheering for you. He didn't deserve your shadow, much less your spotlight. Even clients I hadn't seen in months started returning, some bringing friends. Charleston was watching, and they liked what they saw. That evening, I received a message from Tessa, Derek's sister. I'm sorry. We didn't know. He told us you were cold, controlling, that you didn't support his career, but now we're seeing the receipts, literally. I didn't reply. Instead, I printed her message and added it to the file. The next day, Barbara from Derek's firm called again. Just so you know, she said carefully, Melissa put in her resignation this morning. Rumor is she's moving back to Jacksonville. What about Derek? Barbara laughed. Oh, he's still pretending he has everything under control, but his team is avoiding him like the plague. HR is reviewing his relationship with Melissa, and let's just say, it's not looking good. That afternoon, Naomi called with another update. Good news. The judge granted the secondary motion. We've frozen all non-joint marital assets pending full review. Even the retirement account? Even that. I closed my laptop, leaned back, and smiled. Derek had dug the hole himself. All I'd done was stand by with a shovel in hand, waiting for him to fall all the way in. By midweek, Melissa's Instagram was scrubbed clean. No Derek, no Tampa. Just a black and white quote image. Sometimes the biggest mistakes come in the prettiest packages. Leah showed me the screenshot over lunch. Looks like their fairy tale vacation's over. Vacation? I laughed. It was a layover on the way to rock bottom. Derek sent another message that night. "You think you're so smart. I made copies of all your shop's financial records. Half of it is mine." I read it twice, then forwarded it to Naomi. "Perfect," she replied. "Another admission he doesn't understand how LLCs or marital law work. Let him keep digging." I made myself a cup of tea. Chamomile, extra honey. The house was quiet. My sunroom glowed in the fading light. I opened a new document and began planning the boutique's spring expansion. Because while Derek was unraveling in real time, I was still growing, rooted, rising. He thought he was the storm. He forgot I was the gardener. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got the call from Barbara again. Her voice was tight with contained excitement. "Just thought you'd want to know," she began. "Derek's been officially removed from the promotion shortlist." I didn't even pretend to act surprised. "Melissa-related?" "Oh, definitely. HR's investigation confirmed the relationship breached company policy. Add that to his attitude, and well, they said they're going in another direction." I let out a small breath. "Thank you for letting me know." "Honestly, Rachel," she said, her voice softening, "we all had our suspicions. But hearing everything now, you handled this with grace." Grace. Funny word. It wasn't grace that had fueled me. It was survival. It was the years I'd spent watching him make passive-aggressive digs at my little flower shop while I quietly out-earned him. It was that awful smirk on his face when he thought he'd left me scrambling. No, grace was the mask. The fire underneath was something else entirely. The news about Derek's downfall spread like wildfire. Melissa had officially resigned from her receptionist job and was, according to Instagram, spending time on self-reflection. The quote on her most recent post? "Some mistakes are lessons wrapped in lipstick." I didn't even need Leah to tell me it was about Derek. Still, she came running to me with the screenshot. She deleted it 5 minutes later, but not before 80 people saw it. I shrugged. Well, she's not wrong. The podcast invitation came a few days later. Built Not Bought, a local women-led podcast about female entrepreneurs who'd risen from personal disaster to professional power. The host, an Ivy League-educated marketing exec named Shelby, called my story Resilient Gold. She wanted to feature me as a guest for their season premiere. We recorded the episode in the back of the boutique, surrounded by buckets of hydrangeas and a wall of pastel carnations. I wore a soft pink blazer and spoke calmly, my voice steady, even when recounting Derek's betrayal. "He thought I'd crumble," I said, my hands folded in my lap. "But I didn't just survive, I scaled." When the episode dropped 2 days later, the response was overwhelming. My inbox flooded with messages from women, some from Charleston, some from halfway across the country. "Your story helped me walk away." "I'm opening my own store. You inspired me. Thank you for showing us we're not alone." It was the kind of healing I hadn't known I needed. The final divorce hearing approached faster than expected. Naomi and I sat together in her office the day before, reviewing every last piece of documentation. She was calm. I was calm. Derek, by contrast, had filed 2 more desperate motions trying to claim interest in my business. One of them cited emotional investment. Naomi actually laughed when she read it. "Emotional investment doesn't count unless he was crying while wiring funds," she said. The morning of the hearing, I wore black. Not out of grief, but for finality. The courtroom was fuller this time. Apparently, Derek had invited his sister, his college roommate, and even his personal trainer. Support, maybe. Witnesses, maybe. It didn't matter. Melissa was noticeably absent. He sat with his lawyer, slouched and pale. The tailored confidence from the previous hearing was gone. Even his hair looked thinner. Naomi started with the facts, meticulously, methodically. The boutique was established prior to marriage. The house was inherited and maintained solely by me. All accounts were properly separated. Derek's use of joint funds for extramarital purposes was well documented. Then came his lawyer's rebuttal. My client contributed emotionally to the growth of the business. He encouraged her, supported her dreams. Naomi didn't even flinch. "With all due respect," she said, "this is the same man who repeatedly referred to the business as a hobby and belittled its success in both text messages and social media posts. If he was supportive, it certainly wasn't visible." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Morgan," he said slowly, "your claim here is that you deserve ownership of a company that you didn't fund, didn't register, didn't work for, and consistently mocked in private communications." Derek squirmed in his seat. "I was just trying to make a point." "You did," the judge interrupted. "You made it loud and clear." The ruling was swift. I retained full ownership of Petal and Thorn, all related income and property. The house was declared non-marital per inheritance law. Derek was awarded his personal belongings, his 2008 Lexus with peeling tint and a busted air conditioner, and whatever dignity he had left, which wasn't much. He followed me out of the courthouse. "You ruined me," he hissed. "You've made me a joke." I didn't stop walking. "No, Derek, you did that all on your own. My parents won't even talk to me. My job is... God, I have to move back in with them." "That sounds rough." He caught up, face twisted in frustration. "You planned this. You had this ready." "No," I said quietly, turning to face him. "I just paid attention, and unlike you, I understand the value of keeping good records." His mother was waiting by the curb, engine idling. When he climbed into the passenger seat, she shot me an apologetic glance. Then I heard her scolding him through the rolled-down window. "Honestly, Derek, what were you thinking? A 22-year-old? Bank accounts? Text messages?" I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just walked away. That evening, I sat in my office with a glass of champagne. On the wall above my desk, I had framed two things. One, the original LLC certificate for Petal and Thorn, signed 6 months before our wedding. Two, a screenshot of Derek's infamous breakup text. "Already cleaned out our joint account. Good luck." Below it, I had mounted a small brass plate that read, "Best of luck to you too." 2 years had passed since Derek's infamous text message detonated the life we once shared. 2 years since he thought he could crush me with 23 careless words. 2 years since he bet on my silence and lost. And now, I stood on the stage of a packed women's business summit, looking out over a crowd of nearly 400 ambitious faces, each reflecting back the light I had reclaimed. My name, Rachel Morgan, shone on the screen behind me in elegant script beneath the title, "Building Something That Lasts, Why Protecting Yourself Isn't Paranoia, It's Power." The applause died down as I approached the mic. I took a steady breath and smiled. "My ex-husband once told me I should get a new hobby," I began, letting the words hang in the air. "He said my flower shop would never be more than a cute distraction." A ripple of laughter moved through the audience. "Well," I continued, "that cute distraction now employs 35 women, operates 5 locations across the Southeast, and just secured a national wholesale partnership with a luxury hotel chain." Another round of applause. I waited, composed. He thought I would collapse without him. Instead, I expanded. He thought I'd beg. I built. After the keynote, attendees gathered around for questions. One young woman, barely in her 20s, held up her hand nervously. "My fiancé says I'm being paranoid for keeping my business finances separate," she said. "He says marriage means sharing everything." I nodded slowly. "My ex-husband said the same thing," I said, "right up until he tried to claim half of something he never believed in." I let that sink in. Protecting yourself is not a betrayal of love. It's an act of self-respect. The crowd murmured their approval. The girl smiled, a little bolder now. That alone would have made everything worth it. But there was more. The success of Petal and Thorn had taken on a life of its own. After the divorce, I'd funneled every ounce of energy into growth. We opened a second shop in Greenville, a third in Savannah, and our flagship location in downtown Charleston had been remodeled into a light-filled 2-story sanctuary, complete with floral workshop space and a tiny coffee corner we called the Bloom Bar. Our online store exploded. Holiday deliveries, weddings, branded subscription boxes. We were in every zip code east of the Mississippi. And ironically, it was Derek's betrayal that had lit the fire beneath it all. I hadn't just rebuilt. I'd redefined. Through mutual friends, I heard Derek had finally moved out of his mother's house. He was now renting a studio apartment over a garage in a quiet suburb 30 minutes outside of town. His career in real estate had tanked after the HR debacle. His new job? Selling insurance door to door for a commission-only agency. Poetic. He'd tried to re-enter the dating scene, but rumor had it his age range filters kept widening while his profile photo stayed the same. He still listed his interests as young at heart, beach walks, crypto investing. Melissa, ironically, had fared much better. She'd earned her business degree, launched a successful boutique digital agency, and, surprise, became one of Petal & Thorne's regular clients. One afternoon, she came into the Charleston store wearing large sunglasses and an apologetic expression. "I owe you something," she said quietly, standing beside the roses. "I think we're even," I replied, arranging a vase of white hydrangeas. "I believed everything he told me about you, that you were cold, controlling, didn't understand his dreams." She looked down. Then he tried those same lines on me. I raised an eyebrow. "Did he also promise you beachfront property and unlimited vacation days?" She laughed bitterly and wanted me to take out a personal loan for it. There it was. She left with a small bouquet and a smile that said, "Lesson learned." Months passed. Then came the 5-year anniversary of Petal & Thorne's original location. We held a celebration, banners, champagne, client giveaways, and a floral installation that spelled "Still Blooming." I stood outside the storefront, watching the crowd, the laughter, the joy that radiated from the very space Derek once called a silly side gig. I felt someone step up beside me. It was Linda, his mother. She wore one of our signature silk scarves. "I saw Derek yesterday," she said gently. "He was talking about his glory days. He said he used to be somebody." I tilted my head. "He still doesn't get it, does he?" Linda shook her head. "He thinks he lost everything in the divorce, but truth is, he threw it away." I smiled politely, and I picked it up and turned it into something better. She nodded, then gave my arm a squeeze. "You taught our family a hard lesson, Rachel, about enabling bad behavior, about calling it love when it's just fear." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She stepped back into the crowd, leaving me with my reflection in the boutique window. I saw a woman who was wiser, stronger, unapologetically in bloom. Later that week, I received an invitation to speak at a National Women's Entrepreneurship Conference in New York. They wanted me to headline their theme, "Revenge is a flower that grows in quiet soil." I packed a black pantsuit, a pair of floral pumps, and a framed copy of Derek's original breakup text, now hanging in my office beneath another plaque. "Success is the best revenge." I smiled as I locked the boutique behind me. The petals might bruise, but they always open again.